call the committee of the whole meeting to order, please. Number 1.1, Finance and Admin, Crime Prevention, Community Readiness and Mobilization Grant Update.
And I believe Karen is on the phone. Are you there, Karen?
I sure am.
Okay. Take it away, Karen.
Hi, Karen.
Great, thank you very much. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, fantastic. First of all, thank you very much for including me. I know you have a full agenda always, so appreciate your time. I have 4 components that I'd like to just touch on. First of all, it's where have we been, then where are we now, where are we going, and the finances. I thought I'd share a little bit more information. I've been sending the updates, but always in person on the phone is sometimes can clarify some pieces that might be misunderstood. So first of all, for the first quarter here, January to March, the focus was really on getting together the core staff admin set up, looking at working groups, social innovation and impact lab, also developing a community awareness and evaluation plan. We're on track with all of those, and so that's a good positive thing. We've basically had lots of connections with a whole range of individuals and also organizations. Lots of passionate people in the community and services around, so that's something that's, I think, number one, the awareness, building the awareness around that is really important, because when looking at some of the opportunities, a lot of it is that people aren't aware of what we do have, and so that's one of the key pieces we're going to focus in on for this next quarter. Also collaboration, looking at systemic shifts, with courts and RCMP, that sort of thing, one of the themes that have come out. Transitional services and housing is another theme that's kind of really leading edge, and so is with the people who are accessing Oscar's Place in the Soup Kitchen, as well as evaluation stats and stories that we can basically strengthen how we're sharing information and the data that we're putting out there so that people are aware of what's going on and how effective they've been. There's a couple of different existing strategies in the community, so instead of duplicating, we're looking to work together with some of those strategies that are out there. One is from the Family Resource Center, that's an Indigenous, urban Indigenous strategy, as well as from the Community Renewal Corporation. They have a 5-year plan. Crime and safety was one of the top pieces of their focus, so that's great. Lots of connection with the urban Indigenous strategy as well, affordable housing, addictions, community engagement, employment and training. In terms of working groups, well, the SCAN committee obviously is a phenomenal one with multi-sectoral people coming to the table. So definitely involved with that and want to continue to be involved and kind of hype that up a little bit more. Also some that are evolving, the circle of supporters, or a group of 6, like I like to call them, is grassroots people, depending on where the needs are, but really pulling together a group of 6, kind of like the group of 7, except for we don't paint that well, and coming together to support each other in the actions that are happening, grassroots activities. Another sort of informal group that's forming is really strategy connectors. Jackie from the CBC, the Family Resource Center, and Community Renewal Corp, having those strategies in place and looking at how we can link them and how we can strategically look at where the connections are so that we can, again, not duplicate but really build on what's already existing. Another one from the people who submitted, organizations that submitted for our invitation to get involved. There's a group of basically 15 different organizations who have come together, and that's kind of forming into a collaborative group and working its way into being a community of practice. And I think that'll just kind of form as we go through it. And then hopefully around the coalition of decision makers from the Friendship Center, looking at that being one of the overarching pieces that we might be able to get some inclusion with some of the Indigenous decision makers at the table. So where are we now? Well, right now, last week we had a Zoom meeting that was very interactive, and it was with the people who had submitted all the proposals. The focus was basically to go through a collaborative decision-making process in terms of how we were going to allocate the funds and also what kinds of projects had connections and that sort of thing. It was fantastic. We really landed on 4 different areas of the submission. One was around youth, one was around the homeless transitional housing services. One was around things like the larger community in terms of community ambassadors, Crime Stoppers, Citizens on Patrol. And the last one was around art, design, beautification area. Really cool thing that came out of that, when the groups came back together, all of them actually had either one thing that they were focused on or a very common theme, a common piece of the puzzle where they were all in agreement, and it wasn't necessarily any of the submissions that went in. So there was a lot of dialogue, a lot of collaboration. We're going to be coming back together in about a week or so, a little less than a week, to make final decisions. It was our first group meeting, so we just have some T's to cross and I's to dot. The other thing that's going on right now, Denise Duncan is working on our community awareness strategy. It's a storytelling campaign. She's going on social media and radio and newspaper, pulling together stories from different organizations and individuals within the community around some of the positive things that are going on, because we want to really stress that we do have things happening in the community around crime prevention and building on community well-being. So that's just underway and taking hold. Evaluation is another piece that right now I've just finished up a pre-survey, going to be getting that out, but looking at some other organizations who are also looking at doing some community surveys. So want to make sure that we're not duplicating, but we can work together on it. And also our logic model is evolving, or theory of change, that's evolving, and that's more of our long-term, bigger evaluation piece. So where are we going? Well, the Social Impact Lab obviously is having to make a few changes because of our physical distancing piece, but really looking at how we can do that online more and still making it really engaging and interactive. So working on that, and the community gathering. I was hoping to have a community gathering and community meeting of some sort. Right now I'm working with some of my colleagues around the world to see how we can build something that's interactive for a large group of people. So stay tuned for that, because something will happen. And hopefully this month, in the next couple of weeks. The other thing is we're starting to move on some of the research pieces in terms of evidence-based initiatives that are around the world, so we can build on some of the evidence that we know out there. We'll obviously have to be looking at those in terms of how we adjust them, modify them, see what might fit here in our community. But I think together with the people on the ground here that are already doing things, together with some of that evidence-based knowledge, we can really build some impactful strategies. Finances. Just want to let you know that we spent our budget. So at the end of March was the federal cutoff for the first round of funding for the first year. The details, basically, I'll just give you an overview. $70,000 of that is going to these organizations who are involved in submitting. With that, it's not just to the organization for a project. Some of the criteria is based around assessment information, awareness, capacity building, culturally appropriate resources. So all of that money is, kind of tied into some of the other pieces around capacity building and mobilization, and also assessment. And then about $10,000 is into messaging and the storytelling campaign. So we're really looking at how we can create awareness and some exchange. And then about $30,000 is going to evaluation, coordination, facilitation, some of those ongoing administration pieces. $6,000 is GST, $4,000 is kind of the bulk of the expenses, insurance, Zoom upgrading and supplies, resources, that sort of thing. So that gives you a ballpark of where that full 120 went. Do you have any questions for me?
Oh, you're doing fine, Karen.
Doing good.
Yep.
You doing good? Okay. That's about all I have to share with you right now. I do have some questions for you, though. I'm wondering on a scale of 1 to 10, how useful are the monthly updates that I'm giving you?
I find them very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. Good.
Larry?
I agree.
They're useful? Okay. Because I always think if I can be doing a better job at, sharing that information, please let me know. Was the video helpful?
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Anything missing? Anything more needed? Anything else that I can include for you?
You know, personally, Karen, there's been so many issues come at me in the last week. I just know that you're going to do a good job and I trust you. So my feeling is just carry on.
No worry. Yeah, keep moving forward. It's working.
Others? Well, okay, well, please, if you do have any comments and you don't want it to be, heard by all, no, I'm bugging you. Please, feel free to contact me. I'm really wanting to keep the line of communication open. I think dialogue is important, and obviously with us doing the physical distancing thing, those face-to-faces aren't happening. But I appreciate your time, and if you do have anything that you're thinking, ooh, okay, we're missing this piece, or, where's the connection with something else, please let me know. I'm just a phone call or an email away.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, 1.2, federal funding for electrical vehicle chargers. Issue sheets.
There's a federal grant from Natural Resources Canada, and they're willing to pay 50% of the cost to install electrical vehicle chargers in communities. EcoWest is also working to bring other municipalities together to meet the minimum 20 charger requirement and apply on their behalf. There may be opportunity to install these chargers at public places such as town office, the library, rec center, etc. Is this something council is interested in moving forward on? Or I had thought maybe this is something we could pass on to the CEC. I'm not sure.
Is there a cost, and do we know how much?
50% of, I don't know what the cost is. They have to figure it out with, depending on how many communities were involved, but the town would have to pay 50%.
Personally, I would be very interested. I think something that you're going to see come out of this COVID situation is a change, and I think electric vehicles are going to become more and more predominant. So if there's some way to get somebody to pay for it, I would make it carry forward.
Hey, I'm in agreement too. I'd like to pursue this further, get some numbers on this sort of thing. I think it's something we should definitely be interested in as a community. So I'd like to see it go forward.
Okay, everybody's good. More to come. 1.3, organizational bylaw.
At a previous meeting, it was suggested to bring forward the organizational bylaw and to include the responsibility of the CAO in accordance with municipal act. This has been done as well as including the policy review committee and updating the responsibilities of the personnel committee. This is time for council to review the bylaw, and if there are no other changes, it can be brought forward for first reading.
I read it. I thought it was pretty good.
I read those too. I don't read a lot, but I read it.
Any of the councillors on the phone have anything they wish to add?
Hi, Carrie. I felt that it all reads very well.
And
Okay.
in reviewing what the personnel committee was responsible for, I honestly didn't have history to where some of the stuff came from, so I just provided in the red their reasons why I was removing or just changing the word.
Okay, so
I
then,
appreciated that, by the way.
a bylaw will come forward for first reading?
Yes.
Okay, 1.4, AMM resolutions for June district meetings.
This is just straightforward. At this time, June district meetings will be taking place June 11th, 12th, 16th, 18th, and 24th, 25th, pending COVID-19. Municipalities that want AMM to lobby the government for them regarding certain issues must submit resolutions to be voted on at these June district meetings. If enough municipalities are in favor of the municipalities are in favor of the submitted resolution, AMM will move forward with it. I have no suggestions at this time, and I believe a lot of the concerns council have are already standing resolutions.
I have one. I would like it taken to the June district meeting that in the event of an emergency situation, that the municipalities are not responsible for housing people who are homeless. If there's something in place already and the situation changes, the province should not be unloading that responsibility onto the municipality. I don't know if anybody else has anything they want to take to June districts? Anybody on the phone have anything for June districts? I guess not. Okay, 1.5, procurement policy.
This is the new tendering policy. I believe Carrie, or Councillor Atkinson, you're the chair of the policy review committee. We're going to discuss this.
Sure.
Graham's here as well.
Graham is there. Graham, would you like to speak to it? You're probably going to and as opposed to me. I'm scrolling, sorry, I'm just trying to find the old one so that I can say from what the actual changes are from the old to the new. And for some reason, my one iPad is not opening up, so I just have to just open at the same time. Okay.
Why don't I go ahead?
Did you want Graham to lead this discussion, Carrie?
Sure, he can, and I can try. I'm trying to get my email to open up in my second iPad, and it's not. My AllNet isn't opening on it, and I don't know why.
Well, maybe while you sort out your technical difficulties, Graham can start. Please.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so I brought to council's attention a while back that our procurement policy was a little bit out of date, had some deficiencies, led us to probably some concerns in how we were selecting some of our tenders.
Just a note, guys, we can't hear you.
Oh, okay, sorry, I can talk louder.
I can hear it great.
So we did rehash the policy. We did contact our lawyer. He gave us some suggestions. The result was we just did away with the old policy completely rather than trying to modify it, which would kind of be burdensome. So the new policy is a little bit wider reaching. It still meets what I believe is the provincial agreements for the 75,000 plus. It gives us a little more flexibility in terms of how we do our selections. So we're not just picking the lowest tender in every situation. We do rely on some other criteria. It also allows us some wiggle room, some small purchases that we don't really need to bring into council, and some emergency purchases where time is just of the essence, and we can move fast, or council meetings just may not be available. So I think this is a much superior policy, and I would like to see us move ahead with this.
Okay, Graham, I just had a question. It had to do with local content. I was watching an OCN meeting, and the chief had a very good idea in that outside workers that compete for work on OCN must use OCN businesses and facilities as part of the contract. So basically what he was saying is if you're going to do a job for OCN, you must buy product from OCN, stay at OCN, eat with OCN, that kind of thing. Do we have the ability as a municipality to do that? Because that's a pretty good idea he's got.
I would say no. I think that's probably an example of protectionism policy, and those tend to not work at all. It would be difficult to enforce. It would be difficult to monitor. It would create a whole host of other problems that I just don't know how we would handle it. Now we can make it would have no teeth, I think, at the end of the day. I certainly think that we would probably, the way our policy is designed is that whenever possible, we try to buy locally. But it's hard to enforce that on an outside contractor where The other issue always is, when you start enforcing all these additional rules, prices go up. And they change the nature of the living a little bit.
Yeah, I just thought it was a good idea, because like there are times when we're all one community, and there's times when we're not all one community. And, he was clear, and I thought that was a good idea. He's supporting his businesses and his community, and I thought, wouldn't it be great if we could do the same?
They run a bit of a different ship over there, obviously, with the hotel being owned by the band. Any money that circulates back into the hotel is band money immediately. Some of the other businesses fall into that as well. I don't think that that's the same over here. I know that we want to support our taxpayers, but our first duty is to citizens as opposed to the businesses. And we should be trying to get them the best service, the best price, as opposed to trying to enforce where they get their products from.
Cool, thank you.
Could we just not put a line in there, Rand, that would say, not making them do it, but just say we would appreciate you using local businesses?
I mean, again, you can put whatever you want in there. I don't think that would have any teeth to it.
Well, I know, but it's just to pass on the word to say, it's just a nice way of asking to try to do as much locally. Without making it like a definite kind of
In
thing.
a sense, it's the citizens, or a lot of the citizens that own a lot of the smaller businesses and larger businesses in the area. So if they are the taxpayers and it is the citizens, the money is coming back to them. So, which I think in turn would stop taxes from always increasing, because the community would benefit from it.
Would have the opposite effect on taxes. I mean, if all things were equal, local people should have the advantage in whatever they do, right? Extract the most. If costs are higher because you're getting, if you choose a local contractor, despite costs being higher, the cost to taxpayer is also higher. Even though that one taxpayer may benefit, the community as a whole is not.
If I don't know if you can hear me there, but I think in theory it's great. It's sounds great, and it comes off as we're supporting locals. And my biggest thing is how would we even start to enforce that? So if someone comes up to do a big job on the boilers at the town, and they're buying product, who's going to follow them to make sure they're buying product X, Y, and Z in town? Like, that would be a job and a half. I just don't see it being something that we could have time or the enforcement power to actually legitimately say, no, sorry, you got to stop your job now because you didn't buy your pipe in town.
Convolutes a lot of our purchasing.
Any other discussion? No? No? It's very good. I'm glad you've updated the policy. It looks good.
I feel that how it reads, that we are not necessarily having to accept the lowest tender, that can cover some of the concerns that everybody has brought forth.
Yeah, previously our rule for 75 said we had to accept the lowest tender without, that's just, that was a loophole that was waiting to be exploited by someone.
Graham, we can't hear you, but I can't hear you.
Sorry. No, I was just saying that the over 75,000 used to read that the lowest bidder was always accepted. And that was a loophole that was just waiting to be exploited, and a pitfall we were just waiting to meet. So something that had to change.
Yeah, I see.
Okay, no, good. Thank you. So bring it forward? Yep, bring it forward. All right, 1.6, unsightly property update.
Council requested a list be made of unsightly properties in town and to start the process as per bylaw to have these cleaned up. On January 8, 2020, 17 letters were sent out with due dates of January 31st, 2020 to either fix the issue or send a letter to advise the town of their plan. 6 property owners responded advising that they would have the issue fixed by a certain due date. These properties will be monitored moving forward to ensure they are in compliance with their due dates. 4 properties are with public trustees, and they have advised that they will be dealing with these in the next few months, which should be by the end of April. One property owner advised that they are looking for a contractor to do the work. We'll be following up on this one. One property owner advised the building is down and just need to haul it to the landfill. We'll be also following up on this one. 5 property owners did not respond, and second notice letters were sent out on March 5th, with only one person advising they plan on working on the issue this summer. The mayor was in contact recently with the owners of 119 4th Street, which is the HPR building, the big white building, on March 30th, and they advised that the president of HPR is reviewing this, and they will be sorting something out soon. This leaves 3 properties. Did you want to comment?
No, you keep going.
This leaves 3 properties that did not reply. In accordance with the bylaw, the next step would be to find the property owner accordingly and advise them that in accordance with the bylaw, where the contravention, refusal, neglect, permission, or failure continues for more than 1 day, the person or corporation is guilty of a separate offense for each day it continues. And if the fines go unpaid, this will be added to their property taxes. The bylaw further provides the town with the authority to undertake the remediation at the expense of the owner of the property, and that such expense may be collected in the same manner that the tax may be collected or enforced under the Municipal Act. With the province asking municipalities to provide tax relief and other organizations foregoing, suspending, or deferring fees, etc. due to COVID-19 and the people's ability to pay these types of things, I think the town should just hold off on this for now. I am suggesting sending another letter to the 3 properties that have not provided the town with anything, any letter, letting us know what they're going to do, and let them know that a fine and possibility of the town coming in and just doing the work will be the next step.
Any comments or discussion?
Just to be clear, Dan, did you just say that we are not planning on following through with fines? It looks like a million miles away, I'm sorry.
Sorry. My recommendation is with the province asking all municipalities to provide tax reliefs and other organizations foregoing or suspending, deferring fees, etc. due to COVID-19, I am recommending that the town just send another letter to the 3 properties that haven't provided the town with anything, and letting them know that a fine and a possibility of the town coming in and just doing the work will be the next step. I'm not saying we're going to, I'm recommending that we don't actually fine people right now for these.
Should we send them a registered letter to make sure that they can't come back and say that, well, I didn't get that letter?
Yeah, you can send that as registered.
Yeah.
Oh, it wasn't good.
The discussion around the freight shed at 119 4th Street, that's a disgusting eyesore that needs to be dealt with. I received disgusting photos again today from a resident, and none of the people in our community should have to see that building in its current state. It's about time that the owners of that building make a decision and get something done. We've been corresponding off and on all winter, and they've had more than enough time to come up with a game plan. That is not acceptable. That building is a disgusting eyesore that needs to be remedied. And I don't advise backing off in any way on that property.
I agree with you. Well, we've had numerous people come to council.
And somebody's going to get hurt there, severely hurt. There's been children actually, because of the way they're clearing the snow on the lot, children have gained access to the roof now. And I've seen it myself. I stopped and told them to come down from there and send them on their way. So somebody is going to get hurt.
No, I'm in agreement. I don't know if the mayor can remember, but this was a topic of discussion for other meetings 13, 14 years ago, the same issue, and it just basically has gotten much worse in terms of the number of people using it for whatever they want to. So I'm in agreement. It's time we kind of take a stance on it, and they need to decide what they're going to do with the building. I've heard that it's been structurally sound for numerous years, so if it is and you're going to use it, then fix it up. If not, tear it down.
So the
In terms of the other ones who aren't cleaning up their properties, if we aren't going to go forward with a fine, the properties regardless still need to be cleaned up. fine.
Okay, so as.
I agree, and I think I brought it up before, like some of these buildings, and I don't know if there was an answer given or not, but is there, I don't know, maybe now is not the time, I don't know, but like in terms of our own fire department, like some of these buildings that, and I don't know if this is one, but or one or two that we're talking about, but are they like in compliance with like having enough like egresses to escape if there's a fire? Like, because some I've seen, most of the windows, if not all, are boarded up.
I'd have to go back and see exactly which ones these are. I don't know offhand.
Okay.
Sorry.
No. And I agree, like with what Herb said, so I would support that on the earlier building, but I also think that we should continue on down the path with these other buildings if they've been like this for years and years and years. This isn't something that's new, and if it gets to a point where, you know, we need to defer because it gets closer to something being done, but if we just put the brakes on, I wouldn't want to do that. No, I agree, and then if we mention and go forward with the fine, maybe we will get a response from the owner stating the reason why they can't fix it, and I guess maybe we can show some compassion or I guess say we'll hold off on the fine if we know and get some of the answers. But to date, I guess we're feeling bad about deciding whether we fine the person or not, but yet they haven't even obliged us with any response back as to there's going to be any, you know, fixing up of their building. So it kind of makes my decision easier, I guess.
So
Registered letter with fines for all of them?
registered letters and fines.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as well, there are a couple of buildings in the downtown core that have broken windows with OSB plywood covering them. It would be a good idea if we could encourage them to get those fixed sooner than later because they don't look good. Okay, any other discussion on that? I'm sorry.
Yes, council, if there's any places that you notice, if you could just let me know, because what our bylaw officer or fire chief may not see what someone else is seeing.
Yep.
This way we hit all the ones that are concerned.
Gotcha.
I don't know if any of these guys been past the old A&B and seen what Terra has done there.
Yeah, fire chief is working, building inspector and fire chief is working on it.
It certainly is cleaned up that corner of town, so.
Looks good.
So Jen, how would we go about that? Would we approach them directly, or would we go through you?
Go through me.
Barb?
If there's a place that you see that you feel is unsightly, needs work, just send me the address and I will send somebody to look into it.
So either.
Hey Jen, this might be a dumb question, but is this something that we could get our bylaw person that's sitting?
Yeah, he's
May
been
have something to do that they could just get in a truck every day and drive up and down all the streets in the community and make that inventory?
Yeah, we can.
Things to do?
Yeah, we can. And this is how this
Oh, I
was
just
originated.
I mean, if he's got other things to do, that's fine, but I just think it's been odd that, you know, I would drive around looking for those things if we have people that are actually on staff that.
I wasn't asking you to drive around and look at things, if you notice things, because like I said.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion on that 1.6, unsightly properties? Okay, 1.7, tax relief.
Attached correspondence is from the tax service regarding property taxes and tax recovery sale. Due to COVID-19, the province has suggested municipalities look at providing some tax relief. Tax service, who does look after our tax sales, has provided some options when it comes to property taxes as well as examples of what organizations have been doing. Defer payment deadline for property taxes, waive penalties on overdue taxes, and defer tax arrears recovery, which is also the tax sale. My recommendations are, since our taxes are not due until August 31st, 2020, deferring payment deadline may not be necessary at this time. If it becomes necessary, we can amend our financial plan bylaw. Waiving penalties on overdue taxes. Some municipalities are saying that these penalties are not due to COVID-19, therefore no break should be given. Others have commented that COVID-19 may be affecting their ability to pay these taxes. This goes the same for the tax sale. However, Tax Service, the company that looks after our tax sale, is recommending to defer this. And this will be and I don't know if Graham wants to comment or if you have questions for Graham, because this will affect the budget, depending what we do, correct?
Will affect the budget.
My recommendation would be to defer,
Defer tax sale,
as per the
as per Tax Services.
tax services letter.
The tax sale won't necessarily defer or change our financial plan.
But the tax
If we start deferring interest payments and stuff, those will.
So don't do anything with the deadline for property taxes. Don't waive penalties, but defer tax sale.
Any discussion anywhere?
Nope, not me.
Everybody on,
Yeah, I'm okay with just keeping everything basically the same except for tax sale. I'm kind of interested, why would that, is that what that tax service, they're recommending that we defer the payments?
Well, actually, I don't know if you watched all the provincial announcements that come out very regularly, and the province is deferring and suspending and postponing almost everything that they can, and I think in the spirit of what they're doing, they're hoping municipalities will follow suit.
Okay.
So would this apply to absolutely everyone in town, or only people who have been affected financially due to COVID-19? Like it would have to be for everyone, not just.
this is only the people that are in tax sale. And what tax sale is if you haven't paid your 2018 property taxes.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right,
Fine.
moving right along. 1.8, tender for propane.
An invitation to tender was sent to suppliers, and advertisement was placed on the town's website, Works, and in the Pasco Times for supply and delivery of approximately 500,000 liters of propane per year. 2 bids were received. Recommendation is that the tender from Federation Cooperatives Limited propane with floating price of .3800 be accepted, and a resolution is required. Any discussion?
Are we saving a fair amount of money, Ken, or?
Yes, we are. Lots.
Hey, Jen, the propane tank, the large propane tank at the back, does Stitco own that?
They do.
Yes, they do.
So federal, like the co-op people will put in their own tank then?
Correct.
Yeah. Sorry, yes, they will.
Is there a cost to that?
There's a cost to remove it, because Stinko says we have to remove it, but the new one comes from.
There's a cost to remove it, according to Stitco, but we're not aware of a cost to install the new one from Federated.
There is no cost. They said there is no cost.
There is no cost from Federated.
Resolution is
Where
required.
do we know what the cost to remove it would be?
Pardon me, Chad, you broke it up there a bit?
Sorry, I'm just wondering, do we know what the cost to remove the propane tanks would be?
No.
No, we don't. Not at this time.
Do we know roughly how much we spent in propane last year? 500,000?
Yeah, it was 400,000-ish.
So we spent 400,000, and this cost is a third of what we're paying?
It's incremental compared to the savings we should achieve.
Well, not a third.
Well, our last delivery was 99 cents.
Oh, yeah, no, that, I was looking at the new price, I agree, or there, compared to what it was there. I was almost shocked when I seen that.
So consensus
Yeah, I guess so the consensus be that we move forward with it?
Yeah, I'm in favor. Yeah, I would support that.
Yeah. This is, and I don't,
Move forward, it would just be nice to get some kind of ballpark on when it would be to remove those tanks. So,
this is one of those times where, you know, what we just discussed in the purchasing policy about local preference, and it's unfortunate because Stitco's been here for many, many, many years and employs people in the community, but the savings is not to be ignored. It's significant, and it is unfortunate, but that's the way it is. So resolution coming forward to accept the tender? Okay. Public Works noise bylaw.
Earlier in the year, Peggy McGilvery submitted a noise complaint regarding a business clearing snow in their parking lot at 4 a.m. A letter was sent to Ms. McGilvery whereby the assistant CAO advised that in accordance with the town noise bylaw, this was permitted. Ms. McGilvery appeared before council during the citizens' period on February 10, 2020, as she interpreted the section of the bylaw being only the town of Paul could do this in that time frame. Mayor advised Mrs. McGilvery that this would go to policy committee for review. However, this is not a policy, it's a bylaw, therefore it's something all of council needs to review. In speaking with the engineering department, they have also reviewed this bylaw and their interpretation of the wording. The bylaw was the same as the assistant CAO's in that the section 4 of the bylaw does not apply to snow removal, street parking, sweeping for all businesses, etc. This was not meant for just the town of Paul work. Council needs to provide direction as how they would like to change the bylaw or leave as is.
Have there been any other complaints?
We just remain with the same bylaw we have in this.
I mean, I'll be honest, I can hear UCN clearing their parking lot every time it snows at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Any discussion on the phone? So the
Thank you.
I get it and understand it. I just think maybe the biggest part of the issue is how our bylaw reads. It doesn't kind of clearly identify kind of this is the scenario. I don't read it necessarily that way. I can see where, you know, the CEO is coming from, but kind of read it differently as well as the citizen does. So again, that's outside of the part of whether they should be doing it at 4 a.m. I mean, I get it. They have to do stuff when there's no cars there. But I just think it's an issue with the bylaw reading itself that we need to fix.
You find the language confusing, Trevor? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I do. And I talked about it with the CAO, and I feel free to interrupt me there, Jen, but I believe you kind of seen where I was thinking that the interpretation was a little kind of skewed there. I think just instead of reading two different paragraphs, I think we can just easily sum it up in one sentence, if not two, to say what it is that the rule is. And I think that's part of where the citizen here was kind of having an issue with. If that's the noise bylaw, then why aren't we enforcing it? And that's where I was, you've got a good point. I kind of can see how it reads the exact same way she was interpreting it, so.
I can reword it, try and reword it and bring it back.
Do you want to try a little bit? So is the consensus that we try to reword it or leave it as is? Telephone, folks?
Well, I mean, I don't have any problem with them rewording it if it's not a ton of words. Like, I see it both ways. If we can make it clearer, why not?
Carrie?
Wow.
Not really changing the bylaw.
Bylaw won't be changed, it's just the wording, and possibly, even if we do change the wording, it still could, in someone's eyes, possibly remain a concern. So if we are going to change it, then I feel that we need to be crystal clear with it all. It's a tough one, this one. It seems okay, but I also see Ms. McGilvery's point as well.
So change it or leave it as is?
You're asking me
Yeah, but I don't think you said.
or everyone?
No, I'm asking you. Andre already said if it wasn't hard to make a change, and I'm not sure just what you said yet.
Oh, I wasn't clear. So if it's not, well, I, you know, to say yes, go ahead and try and change it, but I guess you don't know until it's actually done as to whether it helps in a read, right?
Well,
And I know that you want me to just say yes or no, but I'm struggling with trying to make a decision on something that just isn't black and white. And I really, really like things to be black and white.
well, the issue is that we only have a certain number of staff who only have a certain number of hours. And if council wishes them to change the bylaw, it will take some of their time, and they need clear direction on that. If we're not gung-ho on changing the bylaw, then we shouldn't waste staff's time and move on to the next issue.
I understand that.
Trevor?
I think we have a look at it. Honestly, I don't think there's really much of any addition on it. I think there's just one little section. We just delete altogether, and it changes. It'll just make it much clearer for everybody to read. And I mean, that's what we're all interested in. I think we all realize that some work has to get done at certain hours. Our town isn't laid out in a way where residential areas are clearly away from other businesses, so I mean that's just a reality. But I think if we can make it clear on a bylaw, it makes it easier for staff, makes it easier for council when we're looking back to defend what it is that we've already done. So I'm in favor of going back, looking at it, and making a change here or there that we all agree with at the end.
Chad? Chad, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm fine with moving forward on some changes to remove some of the ambiguity within the bylaw. You know, if it can make it clear for everybody that looks at it, then let's go ahead and do it.
Larry and Bill?
I agree, if we can change it up and make it clear for everybody, then we don't
Okay.
have this connection again.
So the consensus is that we'll make some amendments to the bylaw.
Yes.
All right, 2.2, garbage collection modernization.
Mayor and Council has asked the engineering department to explore options for modernizing our garbage collection system. The engineering department reached out to Sonavera for advice and support on how best to move this process forward. Sonavera has provided the town with a proposal to aid in developing and rolling out a modernization collection plan. Sam and Chris met Sonavera through the regional landfill discussions. Our current tender policy states a project of this value is required to be tendered out, and as we know, the tendering process can be lengthy. Therefore, it's important that our department can be made aware of council's intention when it comes to modernizing our garbage collection system, if they want to see movement on this in front of 2020.
Trevor, this was an issue near and dear to your hearts, right?
Yeah, I definitely want to see it move forward. I know there are some, things we can't necessarily answer going forward that they may ask us in terms of where is the landfill going to be in 2 years, 3 years, but in terms of our collection process, in terms of the type of machine we use, the types of the bins that we give or charge or where they're located, like all those things, I think those are important, and regardless of our landfill issue, those will still always need to be addressed. So I think it's something that we definitely need to go into a lengthy process and clearly state what it is that we want, and have engineering put some time into it, because I think we'll reap the benefits in the end here.
The engineering department is just looking for resolution from council to provide them with direction to begin working with Sonavera to fully develop the scope of deliverables Once the engineering department and council are satisfied with the scope, then they can begin developing a tender for this project.
I think we should move ahead.
I think we should move ahead.
Larry?
Agreed, from Andre.
Okay, resolution number 4.
Yeah, I think we should look forward to the future, yes.
Chad?
Yeah, same thing, I think that we should move forward on it. And I don't know if the engineering department is looking for deliverables from us as council, but I think the number one deliverable is efficiency, whether it be financial, operational, whatever. That's all I look at it.
Cool. Carrie?
I'm in green, we're moving forward.
Okay. Move forward. 7.1, budget discussion. Graham's still here. Still here. Yeah, why don't you sit here? Yeah. Then they should be here.
Two arms length.
Okay, so I sent out an updated budget today. I was hoping to get it done by the weekend, but it just didn't happen with the short week. I got some actual numbers in there. Give you a better idea where we kind of fell last year. It's not complete, but it's just about there. Obviously, we got some big questions in terms of what we're going to do, if we're going to defer taxes, if we're going to be doing any closures of our facilities for a longer term, what that means for staffing. So, I mean, that doesn't need to be done in this budget, but if I know what council would like to move ahead with on these things, I can start making some changes. Obviously, these things, the loss of interest and penalty revenue for our taxes will hurt us financially. That'll bring taxes up. Potential closure of facilities and reduction in staff will bring their taxes down. I mean, so some of these are pretty big questions in terms of how this is going to unfold. Or whether you just think we're too late in the game at this point and we should just roll forward.
All right, any discussions?
My opinion would be we just move forward. We don't know what's going to happen an hour from now with what's happening in the world, and I guess it'll be very, very tough to predict anything. So, I think we're just going to have to roll with the punches and see what happens. And I believe everybody else in the world is going to be likely in the same position we are, and to try to anticipate what's coming at us right now is going to be pretty tough. That's just my opinion, anyways.
I think you got the right opinion, Andre. Just roll forward.
The one comment I can say with a little bit of education, any programs, projects, or ideas that are tied to the accommodation fee, I'm going to venture a very good guess. Accommodation fees collected this year are going to be down significantly. They're going to be down hard. So, if there's anything we're funding from the accommodation fee funds, I wouldn't count on that this year to the full extent.
And this is some of that discussion around where if we already know that there's going to be things in here that aren't correct, should we change them now? Like, I'm not lobbying to do a whole bunch of work really fast before the deadline that we've already set for ourselves on the 27th, but if we know that the accommodation tax is going to be lower this year, should I make that adjustment now? Should I, again, if we do, I don't think those schools are closed. Is that something we discussed? I'm sorry, at the end of the season, schools? Are they closed till September?
Ending it still.
Yeah, so, again, I don't know the answers to some of this stuff. Maybe some of the councilors know, but if you could decide today, do you want to anticipate the pool being closed for the rest of the season?
I don't know, where you'd be able to stop, I guess. I mean, I see where you're coming from, and it obviously makes sense, but I don't know where we would stop, that we would we would then obviously cut revenues from the museum, then we would cut revenues from the airport, we would cut, like, we know everything is going to go down, so I just don't see where it would stop, but then we're making assumptions as to, it would just, so I think we just keep what we have, and I guess figure it out at the end of it all, and, because the other part is, and I was thinking about this today, like, so if this continues and things get worse in the world, is a paving company going to be allowed to come to the PAW, and our paving project going to be going ahead? So there's a potential savings, or maybe we have to allocate the money somewhere else, or any other project that we put aside to get done, maybe doesn't get done anymore because it's not an essential thing that we need to have. So I just think we stick to what we have allocated and figure things out when life gets back to normal.
So at the present time, Graham, our mill rate is going to be what?
It was 53.85 residential and 62.68 commercial. So it's an increase of 0.3 mils to the residential and a decrease of 0.64 to the commercial.
So really no change.
So no change.
It's very incremental. I mean, I guess the thing is with this, you know, this is just a budget again. At the end of the day, it's probably more important, based on what's happening, to look at this analytically, regularly, to decide how we're going to compensate for decreased revenues if they occur, how we're going to resign.
Well, we have, well, we have our own here, but like we have set aside a fair amount of money into capital, but that's a different section, right?
It's a different pot.
Okay. No, never mind. No, I think we just roll as we're going, and
We can run a deficit. Sorry.
I agree with you, Graham. Like that's the real way we're gonna have to look at things, because as time goes on, having the individual departments, you know, maybe looking at where, oh, smokes, you know, this is down this amount, this is down this amount, and then if we can make changes to the spending going through the rest of the year, I think it's probably going to be the best way to react to it instead of guessing where it is right now today, and just do it off of some facts and real numbers.
The only problem with that approach, obviously, is that the tax bills for the year are going to be based on this. So if we were hoping to achieve a savings for taxpayers based on what we expect to be a reduced activity level, this would be the time to do it. So it's a tough call to make. We discussed it.
So the province extended the deadline for when we have to submit, right, to June 15th?
For our taxes,
yeah.
To June 15th. We've scheduled a public hearing for April 25th, 27th. Would there be any issue delaying the public hearing a month? My thoughts would be if we delayed the public hearing for a month, and if something really, really strange happens in the next 4 weeks, it would still give us one last chance to make a change if needed.
Yeah.
Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah, very reasonable.
Folks on the phone, does that seem reasonable? I guess.
So we won't be presenting the budget April 27th?
No, we would push the public hearing off into May.
Do we have any ability to increase the budget after we do the public hearing?
No.
You can, but it only has to be very immaterial.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so do we have a consensus? Are we okay to push this off into May, the public hearing?
Yep.
Yep.
Hearing no objections, I guess.
Because before we move on, there's obviously a number of
done it in the past, saying that we need our grant money, the budget's not passed, and the resolution is done getting a portion of it.
Does it impact any of the capital grants?
No.
No, 'cause most of the larger projects we've already pre-approved.
Yeah.
So, no.
Yeah, I was just thinking some of the smaller stuff, like, I know we've got a lot of it already approved. I mean, we don't even know what's gonna happen, whether we're gonna be able to get anybody into the community to do anything anyway, so.
So with that being said, why do we want to continue to wait? Like, are we not satisfied with how it is now, or we just want to wait?
Well, the concern is if this COVID situation turns really ugly in the next month, for certain our business community is hurting hard right now, I know that for sure. And I'm sure some residences are hurting hard right now. So if the world does turn bad, it would probably be a responsible thing to just hang tough until we have to. Okay, so people are okay with putting this off into May, the public hearing?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll make sense for you.
Okay.
Just a month anyway.
Yep. Okay. Okay, new business next meeting. I've got some things I'd like to get on the agenda for the next meeting, and if anybody else has, they can chime in as well. I'd like to get an update from engineering on what we're going to do about potholes. The potholes are something else. Somebody from the mill, Andre, sent me a text, and you'll know more about this, but you guys apparently use some kind of a cold process for plugging holes?
Well, no, I've talked to some of them about coal pack. You can get coal pack, it's like pavement, but it's cold, it doesn't need to be processed, and they use it all over the place.
Okay.
We buy a couple of loads of it every year, and we store it, and our guys just take it out with a loader, you drop it in the hole, you use the packer, you pack it down, and it's good.
So,
Do we not use that now?
I think we do.
Yeah, I believe we do too.
do we have any in stock?
That would be a good question.
So for the
If we don't.
next, so for the next meeting, I wonder if Jen, if you can find out, because
But there's some areas in town, I think, Herb, that are even beyond that now, like it's,
I
we
agree.
need major road work.
I completely agree,
We
Andre.
need winter to be over.
We need winter, we need snow to
Yeah,
melt.
we need that to happen too.
Uh,
It's going to be minus 25 next week.
What?
I'm just kidding.
yeah. I'd like to have a discussion about the community post office boxes, similar to what's down around Bagshaw and that part of town. I'd like to maybe find out if we can get some information from Canada Post as to why that service can't be expanded. I know I stood in line this morning at the post office with, I think, 11 or 12 other people, waiting for my turn to go in and check the box, and just doesn't seem to make any sense anymore. So I wonder if we can investigate that a bit. I want, and then the other thing, so I've got, this is going to come up a bit later as well. I'd like to invite the chairperson of the homeless shelter to our next meeting. I would like to have a discussion with him on the services he provides and how he provides it. And I would appreciate it if we could invite him to a meeting.
Herb, do we have an actual rep on town council for the homeless shelter?
No, we don't, Andre. We've made it our policy to stay away from that.
Oh, okay, because I did send on, I was contacted by the RHA and I sent them on to you and Jen. I didn't know who our rep was.
Yeah. No, we don't have.
Well, I guess we should actually talk about some of that in this meeting because it's quite evident right now that there's no social distancing with these people downtown, and there's a lot of concern with our citizens in the community about it. And I'm not sure where it's going to go with the RCMP with them. They pick the guys up and whatever, but as far as them taking fines or whatever, that isn't going to happen. So I was in contact with Brandon City Police today and asked them what they did there. And what they did in Brandon is they took all the homeless and the street people, whatever, and they rented the Redwood Inn, put everybody in there. They said it's just a big party place now, but at least you only have one place to go to. But they were having the same problem there with the social discipline about being feet apart or whatever, and it just isn't happening here. So somehow, and the mayor and I have talked about it quite a bit over the last week, and it's kind of out of our hands, but there has to be something done. There just has to be something done about this in our downtown core right now.
Yeah, further to Bill's comments, in the last 24 hours, I've received 3 communications from concerned residents. I'm going to read council one of them. Hello, sir. My name is Pratik, and I own the Dairy Queen in the Pas here. I can understand during this difficult time you might be busy taking care of the town, but I would like to draw your attention toward the homeless people issue we have at Dairy Queen from a long time. But due to COVID-19, we have to take some extra measures about letting them in. But still they know understanding the situation, the harassing the staff, swearing, and threatening them beat up even. We already lost 50% business just trying to survive so we can serve the community longer. But due to homelessness, people, we are losing takeout business as well because customers don't want to come while there are 15 homeless standing or laying at the front door. I hope you understand the small business owner problem what they are going through right now. Take care, stay safe, Pratik. So I went over there to ask him, that was last night, to ask him, well, have you called the RCMP? And the RCMP were at his facility 3 times since 6 o'clock. They take them, they get them out of there, they release them, back they go. And so while I was sitting there, the RCMP attended the homeless shelter again and hauled somebody else away. So clearly the RCMP is very busy with this. This is not acceptable. I've got 2 other communications from other residents, very similar to this one. All have come in the last 24 hours. And we need to invite the homeless shelter here because we need some answers as to how they operate their business and what's the plan. Because this is just not acceptable.
We also need to get, like Herb just remembering the SCAN meeting, and I guess the homeless shelter is one aspect of dealing with this, mental health, addictions, whatever the issues might be. But would we need, or should we talk to somebody from like the Manitoba government or mental health, or should they be also involved in the conversation? Because I'm just not sure the homeless shelter alone would they just be, are they responsible for the homeless people when they're not at the homeless shelter? Or I don't know, really.
Yeah, I have something else to bring up after we're in camera.
Also, guys, we need to remember, it's not a homeless shelter, it's an emergency shelter. And I feel that Karen was giving us an awful lot of information. If we had questions in terms of the homeless shelter of Osprey's, and now I'm starting to call it that, in terms of Osprey's Place, why we didn't ask Karen more questions on what's being worked on. I feel that in order for change to happen, we need to start creating more partnerships instead of working against other organizations. I feel like that's something that we really, really need to work on. My 2 cents.
The Osprey's Place works all right as a shelter from, 8, 9 p.m. until 8 in the morning. And that's okay, that works. The people go there, they stay in there, whatever. The concern is the other 12 or 13 hours of the day where these people are just on the streets and not taking part in Manitoba Public Health thing about social distancing. I'm not worried about them being in at Oscar's Place over the night. It's the social distancing during the day downtown.
Yeah, that's why I'm wondering if it's a bigger audience. I know that Karen's doing all sorts of things, but I also agree with her that there's some urgency on, putting some sort of help in place to, I seen something as well today that I contacted the health authority over, specifically around homelessness. But there's, is Oscar's Place just where they're sheltered for the night? It's not really what they do during the day.
Well, it's my understanding that the province of Manitoba, through Manitoba Housing, owns Oscar's Place. And they may not be sitting in front of us, but clearly their representatives are part of the discussion. And
Okay.
the situation is out of control. There's not a day goes by that I don't get a complaint from a resident. And something has got to be done. And I don't know if the municipality has much in the way of power or authority, but something has got to be done. This is ridiculous.
The soup kitchen will be moving into Oscar's Place shortly. So with that being there, that will also increase the hours that it can be open. With hours being increased of it being open due to the soup kitchen starting up there, that also means that there will be access for bathrooms as well. There's a lot of work that's going on. It's taken a really, really long time, but there's been a lot of partnerships that have been formed in probably the last 3-4 weeks, and hopefully things will get better. As to what people do on the street, it isn't any different than if anyone of us was doing it. I know I for one, last week I need to let somebody know in a store that they were in my personal space, and I asked them to please respect my space and to social distance appropriately. I chose to walk away instead of purchasing the product off the shelf that I was wanting to buy because the person didn't necessarily want to comply. Once I started to walk away, they walked away. And I just chose to move on to something else into the store. But I really believe that all of us have personal responsibility in all of this in order to make this all work. All of us can play a key role in this.
I really don't think that's what we're discussing right now.
That social distancing isn't going on. Just ask them to respect your space. Ask them to move on. There's so many things that words can do as opposed to just trying to think that everything's a problem. The majority of people comply.
Carrie, and I don't disagree with what you've said. The issue, though, is far more than just social distancing. I've personally, like probably everybody in our community, have witnessed folks walking on the street, defecating, urinating, fighting, drinking, laying on the street, and just generally carrying on. I do not know when this became acceptable conduct in this community or any community. And something has to be done about that.
I agree with you with that. That's not acceptable conduct anywhere. It's not acceptable in any society for people to be doing that. But we also need, what are we doing? What are we doing as a society, as a municipality, as people in general, to try and make this problem go away? Like, if this was an easy fix, it would have been solved a million years ago.
Well, I think this community is spending $3.5 million on policing costs. So I think this community is trying to do something about it. It's the rest of the system that's letting us down. And I don't think it would take very much of a study to determine that these folks are staying at Oscar's place every night. So clearly, some discussion needs to be happening to talk to Oscar's place about their customers, because their customers' conduct is not acceptable.
You know what, I think that having that discussion with the manager there is definitely not a bad idea. I believe it was one of the SCAN meetings where they discussed what happens at, I think, with Medicine Hat or wherever it was, that basically when someone stays there, you know, there are services offered in terms of, you know, okay, what's your name, why are you here, blah, blah. I think there's steps that they need to follow, forms they need to fill out, but there's also people there to help them vet through that process so that basically they're staying there on the obligation that X, Y, and Z is followed so that they're just not there at 8 or 9 o'clock and there's no services offered, or they're not filling out an application to get social services, like those things. And that's where I think one of the big pieces of the puzzle that's missing. They show up there and there isn't that. There are no other people there, just the one or two people to basically make sure things don't go south there. But that big part of that puzzle isn't. And I don't know who was at that meeting, but that was a big part of what happens in the Medicine Hat region. So.
Okay, so we're going to invite the manager to a meeting.
Yep.
Okay, and the one last thing I have for new business next meeting, something we're going to need to talk about at some point in time is looking forward to the future. At some point in time, we're going to be reopening our facilities. I would dare say it's probably not going to look the way it did when we closed. And I talked to Jen briefly about this today to start putting her thinking cap on and what type of safety measures or whatever she would need to be able to feel safe to reopen the facility again. Just about everywhere I go now has these plastic splash pads or whatever they are. You know, does the front office need that at the front office? And if so, then we should work to make that available. In addition to, we need to determine at what point in time council will feel safe enough to come back and attend the meeting again. Because again, this isn't a long-term solution, it's a stopgap. So again, we need to figure out what exactly will council need to be able to feel safe enough to come to a meeting again. So those are the things that...
Herb, it's not, I guess I just want to add a little bit to that safe thing. It's not so much that it's an unsafe area to go to. It's below and directed by, you know, Health Canada and Manitoba Health is to avoid as much personal contact with people as possible, and as long as you can still be effective. So I guess that I don't think it's you know, for me I think it's just the right thing for us to do. I mean, I still go to work every day and I do all those things, but if we can avoid interaction with people, we should be doing that, unfortunately.
No, and I understand that, Andre, and again, that's sort of like a safety thing or whatever, because the federal government is, I think, adjourned, the provincial government, I think, is adjourned, but municipal governments, we're not afforded that luxury, and we have to find a way to carry on doing business. It's just the way it is. And there's...
Well, I believe we are, right?
Yeah, and there's 6 of us in the room at this point in time, so we're well under the 10-person gathering. So again, council at some point in time will have to think about at what point in time they will be attending meetings again.
For me, it's the length of the meeting. And being in the same room for that length of time. Town council meetings go on for quite some time. And the recommended amount of time is not to be around people for hours. So that's basically where the recommendation is coming from, is yes,
But again, we will start to have to look towards the future. Okay, any other new business next meeting? You guys on the phone, anything? Nope. Okay, we have one or two things for in camera. There's no business to come out of them. Resolve that.
Resolve that we now move ourselves into camera portion of the committee of the whole with Mayor Jakes in the chair to discuss matters requiring our attention.
All right, it'll take a few minutes to shut down the technology, if you guys want to hang on. Or... Good night, everybody.